Empty, anxious, and irritable. Those probably aren't the words you'd expect to hear from a highly successful medical professional. But that's exactly how I felt, even in the midst of considerable financial and career success as a medical doctor. Maybe you are struggling with similar feelings. Maybe despite all your hard-earned success, you too might be feeling a little empty, anxious, or otherwise stressed. Or maybe stress is threatening to ruin your life like it almost did to mine. My name is Dr. Mort Orman, and I'm an internal medicine physician who used to be stressed, both personally and professionally, but not anymore. They say there's a lot of stress, burnout, and suicides in the medical profession, and I was certainly headed in that direction. That's because for the first 30 years of my life, I had lots of emotional pain, relationship problems, anger, anxiety, and other types of stress, which I mostly hid from other people. And that just added even more stress to my life because it's a strain to always be pretending that you're both happy and successful when you're not really feeling all that happy inside. And before we go any further, just as a side note, I want you to know that I have absolutely nothing to do with Susie Orman. I'm not her husband or brother or any other relation, or even an acquaintance for that matter. But it's fine with me if she wants to continue taking advantage of my last name. After all, I was born 3 years before her, so technically, I was here first. But getting back to my own story. Early in my career, I was a typical high-stress physician, only I desperately wanted to stop feeling that way. I spent years trying out all sorts of stress management techniques as well as other advice, but none of it helped. Maybe you've had this same experience where you've worked very hard to manage your stress, but no matter what you tried or what you did, nothing made any lasting difference. And like me, you probably concluded that the problem must be you. You probably felt that you must be doing something wrong, or maybe you assumed that you must be less capable than other people. Well, none of that is correct. I know this because at the age of 32, I had a profound and lasting breakthrough that changed my life dramatically. I finally figured out how to eliminate most of my stress, and I'm happy to say that I've been living a low-stress life ever since. I finally figured out how to stop feeling anxious and angry, and how to have better relationships with everyone around me. So even if you've been struggling with stress for many years, like I did, you can still turn things around and become stress-free. You can still gain tremendous peace of mind, inner calm, and freedom from stress that most other people only dream about. And after I had my own personal breakthrough, I found I was also able to help other people. For more than 30 years now, I've been teaching people how to get rid of their stress without having to manage it. And I created my own unique system for eliminating stress that not only has benefited me for the past 30 years, but it's also helped thousands of others. This powerful system is so very different from everything else available today, and it's proven to be so much more effective that I believe it is the primary reason why I am now regarded as America's leading stress elimination expert. So just imagine what your life would be like if you knew how to make most of your stress quickly and easily go away. How much better off would you be? Your health would certainly be improved, wouldn't it? You'd lower your risk for developing a serious illness or disease. You'd have much more energy, enthusiasm, and happiness every day. Your relationships would be stronger and more secure. And you'd probably become even more successful and prosperous than you are today. Really stop and think about these things for a moment. How much better would your life actually be if you could somehow get rid of 50 to 75% of the stress you have right now? It would be a profound and wonderful change for you, wouldn't it? If this type of change sounds attractive to you, then keep paying attention because you're in the right place. I created this 3-part video series not just to show you how I was finally able to eliminate most of my stress after trying and failing for many years, but also to show you how you can do this very same thing starting now. Don't believe the rumor that modern life is just stressful and therefore there's little you or anyone else can do about it. Don't believe the lie that if you're successful and hard driving, that getting rid of your stress might somehow make you less productive or cause you to lose your competitive edge. And don't be fooled into believing that most other stress experts know what they're talking about when it comes to dealing with stress, because they don't. Their track record for helping people is dismally poor, and many of them are actually confused about what stress really is, where it comes from, and what the best strategies are for dealing with it successfully. I'll be addressing each of these myths as we go through this video series. But first, let me tell you a little more about how stress almost ruined my life and how all the anxiety, anger, frustration, and relationship problems, and even short periods of depression that I experienced almost drove me insane. Going all the way back to my early years, I had very little stress during my preschool period. I was fortunate to have a happy childhood and to be blessed with two loving parents who took very good care of me and enabled me to grow up in a safe, middle-class neighborhood in Baltimore, Maryland. But my stress problems began just as soon as I entered the school system. There was one incident which I'll never forget when I was in the first grade that started me on a path to having serious problems with anxiety, self-doubt, and other forms of stress. A general assembly had been scheduled at my elementary school, where all the students, teachers, and parents were invited to attend. Each of my first grade classmates and I, we had to memorize one short paragraph of a longer story which we were to recite from the stage. When the big day came for my first public speaking performance, I calmly walked onto center stage, went up to the microphone stand that had been placed there, and then I looked out over this huge audience and immediately got terrified. My mind went completely blank. I just stood there helplessly trying to remember any part of the short paragraph I had memorized and rehearsed so many times, but nothing came to mind. The longer I remained there, standing in the middle of that stage, the more excruciating every passing second became. I was humiliated, I was embarrassed, I was ashamed. I felt dejected, especially since my parents were in the audience, not to mention all of my teachers, friends, and fellow classmates. Maybe some of you listening to this right now know exactly what this feels like because you had a similar traumatic experience yourself. All I know is that for me, from that point on in my life, I had an almost paralyzing fear of public speaking that continued to haunt me for years. As I made my way through the school system from grade to grade, every time I was called on to answer a question in class, or heaven forbid, to give an oral presentation, I was completely consumed by fear and anxiety. My whole body would shake, my knees would get weak, and I'd sometimes stammer or stutter just to get my words out. This public speaking fear, as well as other types of stress and anxiety, continued to plague me for all of my school years. It even followed me to college at Duke University and continued to bother me from the day I entered medical school all the way through my 7 years of medical training. I look back on those years now and I realize that I really didn't have a clue about what was actually going on. I had no idea where all this public speaking anxiety and other types of stress in my life were actually coming from. But I do understand it now, and boy, has my life ever changed for the better. I now give public speeches and presentations all the time, and I actually love doing them. So I was able to completely eliminate all my fear and anxiety and nightmare expectations about public speaking, so much so that I've been able to help other people eliminate their own public speaking problems as well. Now, my fear of public speaking wasn't the only part of the story of how stress almost wrecked my career and nearly drove me crazy. Let me take you back to my sophomore year in medical school. My anxiety, irritability, and other types of stress had gotten so bad that I didn't think I was going to be able to finish the next 2.5 years in the fragile emotional state I was in. Fortunately, the University of Maryland Medical School, where I attended, offered free psychotherapy sessions to any medical student who needed them. Now, I was aware of this program during my freshman year, but I resisted it because I didn't want to go on record as officially needing help and risk being seen as somebody who was mentally deficient or was had any of the stigmas that went along with being in therapy. but I just couldn't cope on my own any longer. And I knew that my entire future as a doctor could easily go down the drain. So I swallowed my pride and reluctantly volunteered to go into therapy. And while therapy helped me to some degree, the real point of this story is that it never really taught me how to eliminate my anxieties or a host of other stress-related problems I was experiencing. I did get through medical school and the rest of my medical training, but I still had fears of not being good enough and constant worries of being negatively judged by others. I also couldn't stop feeling angry and frustrated, sometimes even depressed. And these lingering problems continued to bother me even after I opened my own medical practice. Fortunately, it didn't affect my job performance as a physician, but I knew I couldn't keep feeling stressed like this forever. I had to take charge and do something to end these problems once and for all, and that's exactly what I did. Would you like to know how I did it? Well, it didn't happen overnight. It actually took me several years of research and study, along with way more than $100,000 spent on courses, seminars, and personal growth workshops. But I finally figured out how to become a low-stress person in a high-stress world. I cannot imagine how different my life might have turned out if I didn't have the good fortune to discover these little-known secrets to becoming happy, calm, and mostly stress-free. But I doubt it would have turned out very well. All I know is that the levels of anxiety, anger, irritability, and relationship conflicts that I was experiencing back then were wrecking my life, were keeping me from being happy, and were on course to damage my health, just as stress may be doing to you right now. I finally got tired of living my life this way, and maybe you feel the same way too. After all, you don't have to be a doctor to know how stress can take a huge toll on your family, your confidence, your ability to perform and be as successful as you could possibly be. Statistics today show that stress levels are on the rise in every occupation and at every stage of people's lives. But it doesn't have to be that way. I've already told you that I created a remarkable stress relief system that not only helped me keep my stress levels low during the last 30 years, but it has also rescued many other people as well. And the beautiful thing about this stress relief system is that it's totally different from anything else you've ever seen or heard about before. It literally saved my life and my professional career, and I'm very happy that I'm still alive today to tell you all about it. So no matter what specific stress concerns brought you to this video, or how young or old you are, or what type of job you might have, or whether you're a man or a woman, we all can fall prey to multiple types of stress, which can have very negative and undesirable effects on us. Stress can cause any of us to suffer from a lack of sleep, low physical or mental energy, poor concentration, anger, irritability, and many other effects that can put a big strain on our family, our kids, our relationships, and even our job performance. Stress can even cause us to get sick or become disabled or end up being divorced or addicted to alcohol or other drugs. And it can lead to all sorts of other damage and destruction in our lives. So if you don't want these nasty things to happen to you, and if you're tired of having to put up with lots of stress in order to remain successful, wouldn't you love to know how to live with true inner peace and a whole bunch more happiness? If so, I can help. When you watch the next video, I'll not only explain how I was able to save my own life and finally get rid of my long-standing stress problems, but I'll also show you how the very same stress relief system I created and have refined over the years, and that's helped thousands of other people, can also help you. Of course, if you've already heard enough just from this first video to know that you definitely want this fantastic stress relief system for yourself, no matter what it is or without knowing exactly how it works, then go right ahead and click the button below to get started right away. Then you can come back and watch the second and third videos. Either way, I'll talk to you again in the next video where I explain exactly how I finally became able to look my stress right in the eye, change my whole way of thinking about it, and then go out and defeat it easily and for good.